Part 10, the one and only Ivan. Worry. When Julie arrives after the show, she brings 3 thick books, 1 pencil, and something she calls magic markers, like the markers you guys have. Here, Ivan, she says, as she slides 2 magic markers and a piece of paper into my domain. I like the sundown colors, red and purple, but I don't feel like coloring. I'm worried about Stella. All evening she's been quiet and she hasn't eaten a bit of her dinner. Julie follows my gaze. Where's Stella anyway? She asked as she goes to Stella's gate. Ruby extends her trunk and Julia pats it. Hi, baby, she says. Is Stella all right? Stella is lying in a pile of dirty hay. Her breath is ragged. Dad, Julia calls. Could you come here for a minute? George sets down his mop. Do you think she's okay, Dad? Julia asked. Look at the way she's breathing. Can we call Mac? I think there's something really wrong. He must know about her. George rubs his chin. He always knows, but a vet costs money, Jules. Please, Julia's eyes are wet. Call him, Dad. George gazes at Stella. He puts his hands on his hips and sighs. He calls Mac. I can't hear all of the words, but I can see George's lips tighten to a grim line. It means he's kind of mad. It's a little tougher show don't tell. Gorilla expressions and human expressions are a lot alike. Max says the vet's coming in the morning if Stella's not any better. He tells Julia. He says he's not going to let her die on him, not after all the money he's put into her. George strokes Julia's hair. She'll be all right. She's a tough old girl. Julia sits by Stellas Domain until it's time to go home. She doesn't do her homework. She doesn't even draw. My domain gleams with moonlight when I awake to the sound of Stella's calls. Ivan, Stella says in a hoarse whisper. Ivan. I'm here, Stella. I sit up abruptly, like right away, like not thinking about it, and Bob topples off my stomach. I run to a window. I can see Ruby next to Stella sleeping soundly. Ivan, I want you to promise me something, Stella says. Anything, I say. I've never asked for a promise before because promises are forever, and forever is an unusually long time, especially when you're in a cage. Domain, I correct. Domain, she agrees. I straighten to my full height. I promise, Stella, I say in a voice like my father's. But you haven't even heard what I'm asking yet, she says. And she closes her eyes for a moment. Her great chest shudders. I promise anyway. Stella doesn't say anything for a long time. Never mind, she finally says. I don't know what I was thinking. The pain is making me addled. Ruby stirs. Her trunk moves as if she's reaching for something that isn't there. Then I say the words that surprise me. You want me to take care of Ruby? Stella nods, a small gesture that makes her wince. Ooh, so even that makes her foot hurt. If she could have a life that's different from mine, she needs a place, Ivan, not here, I say. It would be easier to promise to stop eating, to stop breathing, to stop being a gorilla. I promise, Stella, I say. I promise it on my word as a silverback. So he's promising to get her out of there. Knowing.
I'll be right back, guys.
Before Mac, before Bob, even before Ruby, I know that Stella is gone. I know it the way that you know summer is over and winter's on its way. I just know. Stella once teased me that elephants are superior because they feel more joy and more grief than apes. Your gorilla hearts are made of ice, Ivan, she says, her eyes glittering. Ours are made of fire. Right now, I would give all the yogurt, raisins, and all the world for a heart made of ice. Next chapter is called 5 Men. Bob heard from a rat, a reliable sort, that they tossed Stella's body into a garbage truck. It took 5 men and a forklift. Wow, that's not good. I forgot about that part. I've read this book, but it's been a really long time. Even Stella dying makes me sad to think about. So the dump trucks, you guys are probably thinking of the ones that come to your house and the ones that come to my house now. Well, dump truck. So, I was thinking more garbage truck. I guess dump truck, if you look it up, would be more like, one of those that you'd see on the highway hauling a bunch of stuff. So a forklift Forklift is something that you can use to lift like heavy loads. You'll see those sometimes at like Costco or Home Depot. People will be driving those around. 5 men in a forklift. Comfort. All day I try to comfort Ruby, but what can I say? That Stella had a good and happy life, that she lived as she was meant to live, that she died with those who loved her most nearby. At least the last is true. Crying. Julia cries all evening while her father sweeps and mops and dusts and cleans the toilets. When George sees Mac, he runs to him. I can only hear a few words. Vet, should have, wrong. Mac shrugs. His shoulders droop. He leaves without a word. When George wipes the fingerprints off my glass, his cheeks are wet. He doesn't meet my eyes. The one and only Ivan. When all the humans have left, I send Bob to check on Ruby. How is she? I ask when he returns. She was shivering, Bob says. I tried to cover her with hay, and I told her not to worry because you were going to save her. I glare at him. You told her that? You promised Stella, Bob lowers his head. I wanted to make the kid feel better. I shouldn't have made that promise, Bob. I just wanted... I pointed to Stellas Domain, and for a moment, it seems like I'd forgotten how to breathe. I wanted to make Stella happy, I guess, but I can't save Ruby. I can't even save myself. I flop on my back. The cement is always cold, but tonight it hurts. Bob leaps onto my belly. You are the one and only Ivan, he says, mighty silverback. He licks my chin, and he's not even checking for leftovers. Say it, Bob commands. I look away. Say it, Ivan. I don't answer, so Bob licks my nose until I can't stand it any longer. I am the one and only Ivan, I mutter. And don't you ever forget it, he says. When I gaze at the food court skylight, the moon, still loved, is shrouded with clouds.